Over to you, Nikita.
Thank you, sir. Namaste and greetings. I am Nikita Gopi, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti, Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. On the occasion of International Day for Older Persons, we have gathered for a special talk on addressing equity through planning and placemaking age-friendly communities by Dr. Ajith Kaliyath as a part of our series, The State of Cities, City Conversations, organized by IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies. Now, let me take this moment to introduce the gathering. We are pleased to have with us as the chair of today's session, Dr. Rumi Aijaz. Sir is Senior Fellow at Observer Research Foundation, where he is responsible for the conduct of the Urban Policy Research Initiative. He conceived and designed the program in 2007. Since then, the program has grown and gained recognition both in India and abroad. Dr. Rumi's effort has been to build a better understanding of urban issues and produce new and correct knowledge for managing urban growth. We welcome you to the session, sir.
Thank you.
With permission of Chair, I would like to introduce our esteemed speaker and discussant.
Please do so.
Thank you, sir. Our esteemed speaker for today is Dr. Ajith Kaliyath. He is the Urban Chair Professor at KILA Institute of Local Administration. Sir is an urban and regional planner by training. In the past, he had served the state and central pollution control boards, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, German International Corporation, National Institute of Urban Affairs, School of Planning and Development, Sushant University, and a few private organizations. Dr. Kaliyath had formerly served the elected executive boards of the Young Academic Association of European Schools of Planning and Oikos International Base in St. Gallen, Switzerland. He's a founder member of the Sustainable Chennai Forum, established by Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Chennai, India. We are honored to have you, sir. Welcome to the session. Now, I would like to introduce our discussants for today's session. We have Dr. Anagha Tendulkar. She is the head of and associate professor in the Department of Sociology at Sophia College, Mumbai, where she is also the vice principal. She is also a social researcher and social gerontologist. We welcome you, ma'am. We also have Ryan Woolrych, who's professor in aging and urban studies and director of the Urban Institute, PUI, at Heriot-Watt University. Professor Ryan is an expert in the delivery of participatory research, working alongside older adults as co-researchers and in methods of co-production. We are pleased to welcome you both for today's session. Now, I invite our chair, Dr. Rumi Aijaz, to initiate the discussion with his opening remarks and then proceed with the talk by our speakers and discussants for today's evening. We look forward to learning from our esteemed gathering. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I would like to begin by extending our greetings on behalf of IMPRI to the panelists and the participants who are attending this program. I'm very pleased to know about Dr. Ajith Kaliyath's work on age-friendly communities, and it would be a pleasure to learn more about the work he's currently engaged in. And I would like to also extend cordial greetings to Professor Anagha Tendulkar, who is with the Sophia College for Women in Mumbai, and to Professor Ryan Woolrych, I hope I have pronounced the name correctly, who is with the Urban Institute at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh or Edinburgh in UK. It's a pleasure to come across your work, and also it would be a pleasure to listen to your comments on the presentation that's being made today. When I think for all of us, we had a title in front of us, that is addressing equity through planning and placemaking, age-friendly communities. I have been participating in a couple of programs on urbanization and related areas during my professional career, in international gatherings, and also a lot within the country, in different states of India. We were engaged in the conduct of a series of workshops on smart cities in different parts of the country. But overall, my impression about this topic is that there is very little discussion on such important topics, number one. Most of the discussion is concentrated on other important issues. They are equally important in the Indian context, in the context of developing nations, such as India. But specifically, themes or thematic sessions on such topics, age-friendly communities, whatever age the population is, and particularly the elderly population, towards which I think the speaker for today is going to elaborate more. Those discussions seem to be lacking. Even in the publications, in journals, in edited chapters in books or books, I think if one does a comparison, or if one try to take stock of an assessment of the number of publications which have come out on these topics, it is relatively less again, which is not a good indicator when one talks about sustainability or smartness or equality or inclusion. I think there has to be a lot more discussion on such important topics. When one comes across an article or a book on this topic, the depth of discussion that has happened within that certain theme that's covered under this topic, I'm sure there is a lot of scope for enrichment or further addition of knowledge on such vital issues. When the United Nations, for example, says that no one should be left behind, and all the nations in the world are working towards the implementation of sustainable development goals, it is not matching very well with the overall goal that the global community has put forward towards themselves to achieve. So in that context, this discussion assumes immense significance. And I'm hoping, and we are all hoping to benefit from the work that you've been engaged in over the years on this important topic. It would be, I think, if Arjun and his team, Dr. Arjun Kumar and his team, they're able to extract some important points and document those points, it would be very useful for the policy makers who are driving the urban agenda in this country. And also when the plans are prepared from time to time, or the policies are revised, such discussions would certainly provide good inputs in order to revise or amend those policy documents so that the end result, that is the quality of life of people of the elderly population, or their access to various amenities, whether it's housing or it's their economic status or condition, or their accessibility to various schemes of the government, their mobility in public areas, their safety. These are all, when you think of the urban sector, it is a world in itself. It comprises everything, housing and sanitation and drinking. So this population has to be catered for each and everything, whether it's their access to health facilities or banking services, etc., etc. So these are the thoughts that come to my mind, which the speaker for today might altogether have a different story to tell us, because he must be engaged in a specific work. He comes from the state of Kerala, and I learned Kerala has the highest proportion of elderly population in the country. So that's a good starting point to begin with. And I would like to invite the speaker, Dr. Ajith Kaliyath, who I've known for quite some time. He has been working in the urban sector on a variety of issues. I know more about his work on environment, but today I'm going to learn about his interests and experience in the theme that has been chosen for today's discussion. Dr. Ajith Kaliyath, over to you.
Thank you, Rumi. Thank you, IMPRI, for inviting me to share my learning and also some of my understanding about a topic of extremely relevant, which is extremely relevant today. Rumi, thank you for placing a very nice context, as well as giving an overview about the different discourses and also potential relevance of this kind of a theme for India, as well as the current global society. Before I start my presentation, I have few things to briefly to inform you. This presentation is much more about what I've learned from different sources, not from my own empirical research, primarily because I've just started engaging with this topic. I mean, it's about a year and a half that I started understanding this issue, the time that I taught in a planning school in Gurgaon. That's the first time when I started trying to understand the issues related to inclusion. I was led to look more about equity, and then eventually I started looking at justice. And then when I started understanding these issues, my attention was drawn to different forms of exclusion in an urban space, which is about women, which is about children, which is about differently abled, which is about extremely poor, and also aged. So I started expanding my understanding and my knowledge, and as well as my own interest to discern these issues which are around us. And eventually, when I took up this position at the Kerala Institute of Local Administration 7 months back, I realized that the institution has done quite a lot of work in terms of training the local governments in Kerala. Some part of that story is part of my presentation, but why I got intrigued and also rather wanted to engage on this debate is because, as Rumi mentioned, Kerala is rapidly urbanizing. Kerala is also rapidly aging. We are becoming a society with a lot of elderly population. I'm going to tell the specific statistics a little later in the presentation, but those issues certainly have challenges, and being part of a system where you are kind of an interface between those who are working at the local government level, and you are also engaging with the peers and scholars from different parts of the country and the world as a chair professor, and also have an opportunity to share the update as well as contribute to the policy process in the state. I thought this is a theme which I need to understand in a very, very detailed manner. Otherwise, I'm not going to do justice to my state and my work, because in a rapidly urbanizing, rapidly aging Kerala, if I don't understand what are the issues and what are the challenges and what are the ways and means we should organize our urban spaces and our community spaces, I might fail miserably. So to give you a clear picture, why I decided to endeavor on this topic is part of a personal learning effort. And when Arjun and Rumi asked about my willingness to share what I understand, I thought this is a good topic. And also today, being the International Day of Older Persons, I thought we could make a good deliberation, and there will be exciting learning. And thank you for organizing an excellent panel. I'll now take you through my presentation, which I should be able to finish in about 20-25 minutes, and then I'll be happy to kind of discuss, share, or respond to the questions. Hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. Right, so as I said, most of these things are borrowed. None of my own images as well as my own ideas. So why do we need to look at this theme? We need to eventually create spaces and communities which offer such kind of opportunities where people could come together and celebrate their
Bottom left, sir. Bottom left.
Pardon me?
Bottom left, if you want to change the slides. Is there any issue?
Yeah, I'm not able to change the slides now.
You can go to, yeah, bottom left. Yeah, there you will.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, so this has got three, subunits. The presentation that I have organized is in three broader areas. One about the global discourses and practices, and one about the national discourses, practices, and also the policies and schemes, and one very specific to Kerala. So this precise context is, we are today observing the International Day of Older Persons, October 1st, and this was started in 1990 by the United Nations. And this year, the theme is digital equity for all ages, because we are going through a time when people are only able to engage digitally like we are doing now. And so there should be equity in access, in use, as well as in availability to this opportunity, and even those who are aged or elderly should have access. So that's a great theme. Now there is much more significant reason why we should go beyond these today's engagement. 2020 December 14, the United Nations General Assembly declared 2030 as a decade of healthy aging. Now, this is significant because as we realize the global society is aging, as we also realize there are been epidemics, there is a pandemic now, and now they say there is also going to be something called syndemic. So more than two pandemic or epidemic coming together or connected to each other, obesity and COVID and all those kind of problems are going to, plus other unknown epidemics. So we are entering, or we have rather entered a scenario or situation where climate change and other conditions which are not really in our control now have pushed humanity into a situation where we are going to experience or witness more than one health challenge at the same time, maybe in different parts of the world. So we need to work towards improving our health goals. We need to ensure the communities are able to kind of remain healthy. And there are a lot of discourses related to health and placemaking. And of course, we need to bring that into aging related issues. So there are 3 or 4 areas which the decade should focus on. One, combating ageism. So like racism, ageism is also about, oh, this person is above certain age, he or she may not be fit to do that job. So discarding people opportunity based on their age and their reading or understanding about their age and their physical condition is ageism, which is not a correct thing to happen, because people might get deprived of opportunities. And then age-friendly environments, which is the topic that we are entering into discourse now. Then integrated care system, long-term care. So these are the 4 agenda which the UN Decade of Healthy Aging is going to focus on. While we understand these as challenges which need to be addressed, we also need to organize our thoughts or need to have a contextualized thinking about what is age-friendly community. City is assemblage of communities. So I use something which was readily available. An age-friendly city is an inclusive, accessible community environment which optimizes opportunities for participation and security of all people and ensure quality of life and dignity, irrespective of their age, irrespective of one's life situation. Everyone should get opportunity, and if that is ensured, one could say that community, that city is an age-friendly city. And there are concerted efforts by different international organizations. World Health Organization takes lead in doing this. So this is something which they have defined for global community. So since we want to understand and debate about the planning and its role in shaping communities or cities as age-friendly, I thought we could use this perspective which was given by the American Planning Association, APA. There are 6 areas, and one is actively engage aging perspective in planning. So planning process need to integrate aging into its thinking, into its planning, into its formulation of place-specific strategies. And one should also advocate or try to embed ideas about universal design and visitability. So people are not prevented or deprived of opportunities because certain barriers prevent them, or they are not able to kind of access because of their conditions or situations, physical conditions, situations. Maximum degree of personal independence and use design to create such possibilities. The 4th one is maximize connections among. So the interconnectedness within the urban economy, urban functions, urban services is what, again, because in recent days you might have heard about ideas about 15-minute city, where the mayor of Paris initiated this discourse and also led that into among the global mayors forum, where within 15 minutes, approximately 2 kilometers, 2.5 miles where one lives, one should be able to get most of the services related to health, education, and retail facilities. So it's about compact neighborhoods, and such neighborhoods are much more helpful for people who are elderly and aged. That's the kind of argument which the American Planning Association is also making. Local economic development policies should certainly incorporate the work, the job needs, or probably the opportunity to volunteer, to engage with peers as well as others in the society, other members of the society, for those who are elder adults or those who are probably not able to kind of go beyond certain distances because of their conditions. And finally, strengthen the community assets. So build a vibrant social infrastructure is what, again, compact community, whether it is 15-minute neighborhood or 20-minute neighborhood, but having a compact community, compact neighborhood with a lot of community assets for different pursuits of human faculty, health, education, reading, recreation, maybe for a walking. All these kind of opportunities need to be provided at the community level. Such kind of process and such kind of ideas should be part of the planning process. That's what APA is arguing here. Okay, a diagram which helps us to get the interconnectedness very clearly, age-friendly environments. So three major components. One is a physical environment, and physical environment, as I just mentioned, opportunity for playing, recreation. So the outdoor environment, great outdoors need to be part of that. And mobility, shared as well as high quality mobility opportunities, modern transport system need to be integrated, as well as housing. People should have opportunity to live in safe and decent and vibrant neighborhoods. So that it's a physical environment. Then you have the social environment where civic engagement and employment, both for income as well as for socializing, there should be enough number of opportunities. And social inclusion and non-discrimination, irrespective of their age, as I said, ageism, or their race or their appearance, their language, people should not be prevented from availing these opportunities. So that again will call for such kind of intervention through planning. And social participation. So engagement and then effective participation. And then the municipal services should complement these, or municipal services should oversee these things are available. Plus, they should also provide health service and communication. And so if these things are effectively integrated through planning process, through placemaking process, then community can become age-friendly. Now, there is a connection between the needs of those who are elderly and those who are younger members of the society also. And this is something which is emerging more than the age-friendly thinking now, the intergenerational opportunities, intergenerational communities. So the mayor says here, anything that's good for an 80-year-old is also good for an 8-year-old. In fact, there are initiatives called 8 to 80, which is a leading UK-based initiative where they try to understand the similarities or the commonalities of the demands of these two segments of the society. So what I tried to say is understanding aging and using the planning and design process to ensure their needs and requirements are addressed. And by addressing that, you also create opportunities for those, most potentially for those who are younger members of the society. And if we create multi-generational neighborhoods, so it's not merely the 8 and 80, but also those who are the adults, who are the parents, who are probably the link between the kids as well as the elderly ones. So communities which have the multi-generational neighborhoods are much more vibrant, much more thriving, much more livable, and everyone still can progress, because there will be different type of services, different type of attention, different type of emotional sharing, as well as support, which people would be able to derive in such kind of an environment. So we shouldn't plan merely for aged. We should use the planning and designing process for those who are elderly, but that is a framework to arrive at something which is much more refined, much more central. Some images to make the story more interesting. So I've taken it from some sources, published sources. Here, the vulnerability, and depending upon the location, the type of vulnerability population experiences, and which area experience what kind of vulnerabilities, what being mapped here. I'm sharing this map to tell the story that unless and until we are able to generate this kind of granular data from places within communities, we are not able to understand which place is deprived of what. Is the community which is experiencing certain challenges, is there multiple deprivation, or is it just one or two issues? So it's important to understand the complexity, the type of, and what contributes to which type of deprivation, and how those who are the vulnerable, the aged, receive those kind of challenges. So now going a little beyond this is much more specific to the racial distribution of such challenges among different races, and how such kind of an information will be useful for a typical Indian city, because we may not have large number of people who are probably from other parts of the world in any of our Indian cities, barring those who are highly educated, moving for diplomatic reasons or for education currently. Still, most of our cities, whether it is Mumbai or Delhi or Hyderabad, any of our big cities will still have large number of people who are coming from different cultures, different states, and different linguistic background, different religious belief, different other priorities. Now, they might still be experiencing different type of conflicts, challenges, depending upon the location that they are residing and the kind of social and spatial affinity they do have. So it's important to discern this kind of information without having a blanket approach. Okay, let's develop an age-friendly community. We will not be able to make it successful unless and until we understand the specific narratives, the specific challenges of different subgroups, different cohorts of the society, and what are the reasons why they have ended up there, and what are the challenges they are currently experiencing. And another evidence taken from another published work from the city of Columbus, where the comparison between different activities. So what is an age-friendly community? Do we have well-maintained safe parks that are within walking distance? Are there crosswalks which make someone's crossing the road safer? Are the roads and streets well lit? Are there walkways? Are the ramps easy to enter? So such kind of information, like we looked at the earlier one, the spatial distribution of different cohorts, it's also critical to understand what are the different services, what are the different type of issues people are confronting in those communities before one is able to kind of plan to make that age-friendly or intergenerational. This is just to show the current way of tracking such information. Cities have ventured into to use GIS to understand the different challenges. Primarily, this is again from US evidence, where they are tracking this information in real time and try to get a real-time dynamics of the community. So going from here, so what I try to deal till now is about the planning, designing, and the compulsions of those, and what kind of benefits one could derive if one is able to kind of integrate these ideas into planning. But we are also enabled by the technological advancement now, especially the assistive technology, where those who are elderly or those who have some other challenges could avail the support of such kind of technology. It could be gadget, it could be device, which will help them to be less dependent upon another individual or a bigger service system, care system. They could be much more independent. They could manage their own. It could be shop mobility. It could be personal alarms. It could be GPS trackers. And those facilities are, in fact, recently there were also information about the walking sticks, which are able to help those who are blind to safely navigate busy roads. So the assistive technology is becoming much more handy, becoming much more personal, and those are certainly useful but we must find a way to integrate all this into the bigger process of placemaking. This is only, sorry, this video is not working, but I just wanted to tell the the issues about such challenges. So aging and aging plus other related or associated issues. So dementia or other age-related problems. So planning has been engaging with these kind of debates, how to create communities which are different, dementia friendly, and then how do we use design to make this much more legible, much more easily available, accessible physical space. So familiarity, legibility, as well as access, the feeling of safety, these are all important when someone has to plan for those who experience dementia. And the process of doing such things have been integrating much more design inputs into making communities. And this is something which Professor Ryan might be much more familiar. I only knew about it theoretically, the place standard, which has been implemented in Scotland, which helps someone to understand how good is a place, which street is good, which area is good, which community is good, what are the reasons for those challenges associated with that. And so such information is helpful for people to situate and decide their mobility patterns. Going beyond, many times aging is also contributing to another associate problem, which is about loneliness. People who are elderly might get deserted, or if not intentionally, might many times be alone, probably for days and weeks, probably for the working hours when their family is out for work or business. Now, this is quite difficult because people need to engage and keep themselves socially active, and their inability to step out and meet their peers and other members of the society might result in feeling of loneliness. And it's important, the process of making places, making communities, designing streets, designing common facilities would also consider the opportunity for such people. So universal design, creating enough public spaces, vibrant community spaces can, in a way, prevent such kind of situations. This only to inform the viewers or those who are in the audience to understand this is about there are about 700 plus cities around the world which are part of the WHO's World Health Organization's network of cities which are age friendly. And from here, I'll just quickly take you through the national discourses. So we have grown in our number of people who are elderly from 1951, just after India's independence, when it was 10.38 crore, when it was just 1.98 crore, it has become 10.38 crore in 2011 census. And the study implemented by Ministry of Social Justice came out with an estimation of 23 crore of the Indian population would be aged by the year 2036. They look between 2012 and 2036 for some reason. So that's how the year was suggested, 2036. But there is an act which has been enacted by the Indian Parliament, which is about Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007, which has largely helped the elderly population getting some level of safeguards. But there's much more being offered by the government now. The National Action Plan, which was earlier National Action Plan for Senior Citizen, which is now called Atal Vayo Abhyudaya Yojana, which is a senior citizen program, which is looking at issues such as ensuring the senior citizens have a healthy, happy, empowered and dignified life. Dignity is something which is very central to this whole process of policy making, as well as taking it into the community. And it has the year to 2021-22, it has made these provisions, which is related to action plan for the senior citizens, and also recognizing the contribution of communities which have supported them and given them due space and dignity, creation of helplines, and also skilling. And sometimes those who are very experienced senior citizens might also be able to become mentors and even entrepreneurs. So looking at those possibilities, skilling, reskilling, and deploying their skills for a purpose which may not be directly remunerative for them, but it will keep them intellectually and emotionally and socially active. And the idea of silver economy, this is called silver economy. Those who are part of the the senior citizen, the economy around them, the economic activities around them is called silver economy. So there is also recognizing by the government of India that there is substantial economic as well as other service requirement for those who are elderly, and one need to kind of. So going from the previous slide, I'm only trying to focus on the fourth one here, which is to tell these policies and the particular information I'm showing belongs to the year 2019, but I think the award and recognition for the best urban local body for providing services to senior citizens was started somewhere in 2015. There had been a number of urban local governments which have received such award, and that is the interface. That's an opportunity where Indian communities have started translating the need or the issues related to aged into local plans, into their plans and in their designs and in their placemaking. So I'm trying to link what is seen elsewhere to the Indian context, what attempts are made, what policy frameworks are available, and how it's getting translated into. Now the market or the entrepreneurs or the social entrepreneurs are much faster in this. And here, one of the leading property developer is the Oceana Builders, which have really got into this space. So they have decided to create communities where senior living is a unique experience. So they provide a bouquet of opportunities for those who are a couple or those who are single, want to live safely, still want to be part of a community, could participate in activities. So this is in NCR. I think they have recently started engagements, their projects in Pune as well as in Chennai. So they are expanding. There's another group of social entrepreneurs who have been operating from Gurugram, and they call Senior World, and they provide phones, very customized service of phones and other products and holidaying and range of opportunities. Here, there's another group which call themselves elder care. Now, I'm saying these things to inform the audience whether those who are in the built environment professions, planners, urban designers, or those who are in the policy making process is really seeing the opportunity or not. There are people who are seeing the opportunity. There are people who understand what kind of challenges, what kind of opportunities are coming to their space, because the society is aging. There's bigger opportunity related to silver economy. So they are already preparing their systems. They are developing models. They are developing services to cater to the requirement of those people. This is the context where I am currently involved. And as I said, 2011 census informed that Kerala has about 12.55% of its population which are aged, whereas 2021 census, it's expected that it's going to be about 23. We don't know the real figures, but it could be 23, it could be 22, it could be 25. But what is important is two things are converging. And in fact, there is a third challenge also. The first one, Kerala has already reach 48% urbanization. 48% of the population lives in urban environments. The next census, 2021 census, might be throwing very interesting pictures. It's an urban continuum. There's no real difference between rural and urban, which is known to most of the people who knows about Kerala's reality. Then there is this aging, and especially large number of people who are living alone because their children are away in other states, in other parts of the world, because a lot of people who are skilled and unskilled have migrated to other parts of the world to seek jobs. Now, the third thing, which has started attacking Kerala since last 3 or 4 years, is the issues related to climate change, or maybe very still unknown reasons. So 2 floods, 2018 and 19, have really tested the social as well as the cultural and also the physical resilience of the state. Beyond that, Nipah as well as now the pandemic is also creating a lot of challenge to the society. So the society is under serious type and multiple pressure points. We are also receiving a lot of people from other parts of the country because there's a lot of jobs which are available for those who are unskilled. So Kerala receives a lot of guest workers from other parts of the country, especially Odisha, West Bengal, Bihar and Northeast. And they are also first time the state is opening, has been opening to people coming and living here. Otherwise, it was people from Kerala who were going and living and working in other parts of the country or world. Now, this is creating a new set of dynamism here. So all these things collectively together is turning the society, creating a social context, socio-cultural context, which need to be navigated with utmost caution, which need to be addressed with careful planning. And that cannot happen unless and until every section of the society is taken into the forte of planning. And what Kerala Institute of Local Administration had attempted in this process is to, in anticipation of the emerging challenges of an aging society, KILA had provided training to 100 plus village panchayats to help them to imagine their communities as age friendly, and also have facilitated formation of consortium. This training has largely contributed to generation of data on elderly people within the local government. It has also helped in using the power of ward committees, special ward committees for elderly population and observation of senior citizen days. It has also contributed to creation of support system, and it has also contributed to, or rather further, the community-based palliative care. So these are the areas in which Kerala has made substantial contribution. The training which was offered by Kerala Institute of Local Administration, I am not taking any credit for that work, because this is a work which was done by my colleagues who started that earlier than I joined KILA. So there are senior colleagues who have been responsible for those work, and they have done substantial work in training local government functionaries. And those efforts have helped us to build. Now, in the recent months, when we started developing training module for the urban local government, we started bringing these aspects into their training module. The elected representatives come for training at KILA, and we have been training them, providing them training and providing them information, providing them reasons to look beyond ordinary projects, to understand the challenges of a complex urban space where you have differently able, you have elderly, you have children, you have also people who are coming from other parts of the country and started living there. So these urban spaces cannot be dealt with some magic wand. It has to be understood. Their challenges need to be studied, and they need to be addressed through careful planning. And equity is a tool, equity is an idea, equity is a value which will help us in achieving that. And I have heard several times very positive response from these elected representatives who said, yes, we should engage on this, we should facilitate that transformation. And finally, before I conclude, I just thought it will be helpful for the audience to know the exciting work which a lot of organizations around the world does, which I referred, which I studied, which I'm continuing to study when I want to deepen my understanding on aging and its significance in planning and placemaking. With this, I bring this into an end, and thank you for your attention. Happy to take questions or respond to any observations.
Thank you, Ajith. That was a very fascinating, wonderful presentation. It certainly helps build understanding on this subject, and your remarks on the definition of aging, the parameters that are considered for understanding this idea of aging, that policymakers and planners need to know. Your comments on the needs of senior citizens and the ways in which those should be addressed are very important thoughts that you have shared with us today. It's also good to know about the work that KILA is doing on expanding the awareness of elected representatives who work with the communities in a variety of ways as to what are the things that they should keep in mind when they are dealing with this important subject. I myself have done a lot of work on municipalities and written a paper on capacity building of municipal functionaries. So your current work, your current engagement is of great interest to me, and I'm sure there would be many others who would like to learn more about how KILA is trying to address this aspect, particularly for the senior sections of the society. But before that, I would like to, so I would thank you for your presentation. It was very good. It has built a lot of understanding that I had previously had about this subject, and I'm sure the others also feel the same. I would like to invite Professor Tendulkar, who is with the Sophia College for Women, to share her views on this topic and the presentation that Dr. Ajith Kaliyath has just delivered. If there's any specific comments that you might have, which would benefit Dr. Kaliyath in the work that he's interested in pursuing, that would be very grateful. I would like to invite Professor Anagha Tendulkar.
Thank you, Dr. Rumi. And may I first of all congratulate IMPRI for allowing us to celebrate International Senior Citizens Day in this fashion. I mean, something that's absolutely timely and befitting, because unless and until people come together and talk about senior citizens, I don't think the planning and policy makers are going to take a call on the fact that it is a serious concern and it has to be looked into. So thank you, IMPRI, and thank you, Dr. Ajith, for a wonderful presentation. And it's nice to have a person from Kerala talking about age-friendly cities, because when we sit in Mumbai and we talk about aging problem, the constant model is Kerala. I mean, Kerala comes always as a reference point to say, look, this is the state with the highest number of senior citizens. I completely enjoyed what Dr. Ajith said, and I know very well that I have around 8 minutes to go. So I'm going to be commenting briefly on what I felt about Dr. Ajith's presentation, but I would also like to pitch in with the idea that my background is in sociology. And the sociology, sociological gerontology or social gerontology is something that has been not really given complete justice to attention to by even the policymakers. Uh, I completely go with, I reiterate what Dr. Rumi said at the beginning. He said that the whole process of aging and the problems are not documented properly. There is scarcity of documentation, and it's nice that we have started talking about it, we have started writing about it, we have started deliberating on it. So there are a few points from a sociological angle that I'm going to take up in the next 8 minutes that I have at my disposal. These are the points that I am presenting with the idea of adding to what Dr. Ajith has said. I completely enjoyed what he said, and I feel that it can be further supplemented by the following considerations. My first concern is that, you know, if you look at the historical study of aging, and you look at the status of aged and what were their positions in the then societies, one clearly understands that wherever the civilization did not take count of aging process and the elders was when they lost out on their ability to hold on to the role or the status that they had in that given society. So especially in the nomadic society, senior citizens were not celebrated. Aging was not celebrated. They were more like a burden all the while. Farming, when the cultivation part came in, aging and the aged, the elders, and I don't like to call them elderly, so the elders, the senior citizens, did get a position which was deliberated and interfaced with several possibilities with regard to their capacity. So I will say this repeatedly, that when we talk about status of a particular community, age cohort, a group, etc., it has largely been determined by the perceived efficacy of that particular group. So when we say farming, we know that the farming community rested on the knowledge that the senior citizens had, and therefore the prestige of them was like intact. And I would like to quickly refer back to what Press and Mackule has written in 1972. They have said that there are 4 basic, prestige generating components when it comes to understanding social gerontology. So first one very quickly could be the advisory component, when you feel that senior citizens, elders have the capacity to advise, their expertise are going to be useful too. Now, let's keep connecting this continuously to the process of urbanization and suburbanization that India is experiencing right now. So it appears that the advisory component, which is a prestige generating component in the urbanization process, doesn't seem to be acknowledged. It's not been acknowledged by the people as such, those who are city dwellers. The second component is given again by Press and Mackule, which is a contributory component, where you start believing that elders can contribute to urbanism in a big way. Now, that contributory component, it could be a valued contribution that elders can give to your cultural, familial, and even economic infrastructures. Again, that the elders are not doing very well, because the city dwellers don't seem to be understanding that once senior citizens retire, the loss of role, and then what do we do with them? So the contributory component also is quite diluted in a process of urbanization. The third one is the control component. The control component would mean that somehow the elders still have right to property and therefore can decide on somebody else's welfare. There again, they are falling short, because the way cities are growing, the pace at which they are growing, and the quality of urbanization. It's just that senior citizens cannot retain their capacity to control the family decisions and the business and a lot of it. So the control component, again, they are not doing very well. And the fourth one I would say is a residual component. And the residual component would mean that the position that I occupy, once I retire, I completely give away that. In most of the cities, we have said that let's introduce something called staggered retirement. A staggered retirement would mean that I slowly ease out of my role. But unfortunately, it's just not happening in cities because specifically Mumbai is not just urban. Mumbai is also modernizing. And the content of modernization, content of urbanization, along with content of industrialization, the overlap that you can see there is proving detrimental to the status of senior citizens. So I'm very sorry to say this, but Mumbai has been not very kind to the existence of elders. Kerala, I'm sure, has a different story to say, but as far as Mumbai is concerned, we are very worried about the bracket that we have given to our elders. Now that takes me to the next point, and that's about spaces. Now, generally we say that a busy city with a huge population will put the categories that do not appear to be useful in the margins. And unfortunately, most of the cities which are industrialized and then urbanized as well, have been very quick to push senior citizens from the mainstream to the margin. And the marginalized groups are never factored in when you're planning a city, or you're never factored in when you are trying to figure out, because they've already been given a margin to be in. A margin which is marked by exclusion, margin which is marked by the fact that you're no longer utilitarian, you're no longer useful to the mainstream. So I'm afraid when I see city of Mumbai, I can only find very few spaces, and those spaces completely in inverted commas are gray spaces. Gray spaces in terms of the fact that they are senior citizens, the graying population there, but also at the same time, these are spaces that have been with great difficulty being sorted out and given to senior citizens. And we've said to them that, look, if we are giving these to you, be it Nana Nani parks, be it daycare centers in Mumbai, be it old age homes in Mumbai, a lot of these are, I'm sorry to say, but look like gray spaces to me. Now, there's nothing wrong in calling these gray spaces. I'm saying they're gray spaces in a negative sense in terms of three things. Number one, they are never factored in when the planning happens for a city. They are never factored in when decisions are made. They are never factored in when a path ahead is looked into for urban centers. So I was, it is very heartwarming to figure out that many NGOs are working towards it. Very heartwarming to see that there are plans and programs happening. But I'm afraid when we talk about the urban dynamics, as far as Mumbai is concerned, it is not a place for elders even now. To my surprise, the surveys that we are conducting or I've conducted, senior citizens are not very happy to be in Mumbai, but at the same time are not very happy to leave Mumbai as well. They don't see, for their medical reasons, for the fact that their younger generation is now settled in these cities, they don't want to leave these cities anymore. The disengagement is not visible. So understanding the fact that the elders want to be in cities, I feel that a more discerning planning, a more careful planning, factoring in people who are in the mainstream, keeping them in the mainstream without pushing them in the margins, as I normally say, will have to be done. Otherwise, celebrating these days will not make sense. So I am very clear about it that we will have to, code and decode this process of urbanization, understanding the cultural context, the way that we have followed. When we say path ahead, unless and until we go back and check from where we have arrived at in these cities, how this urbanization has happened, we will fail to, give a roadmap to elders. And let's also not forget that the elders are no longer a vanishing group. Elders are here to stay. We know that the longevity is such that the old people are getting older and the older are getting very old. So in such a situation, cities cannot act like, where are these? Why should we worry about them? Cities will have to act like. There's an additional feature in Mumbai, and that is interesting. I'll take this as my last point. And that last point is that the new generation is flying away. So when you look at Asian cities, a lot of Asian cities, and Kerala is also an example of this. When you look at it, it looks like by itself an old age home many times. I was in Konkan in Maharashtra, and I felt that it was a big old age home because the working population has shifted to Mumbai. So the Konkan coastal area is full of senior citizens, and it is important to therefore redefine urbanism, keeping in mind senior citizens and their problems. So I'm going to conclude these quick points by stating that we got to be careful. We got to work out spaces for elderly. For elders, we got to ensure that these spaces do not appear to be gray spaces. Okay, they have to be well illuminated, point intended, well illuminated, well designed, and well framed spaces. They have to be closer to the mainstream. They can't be completely secluded, because that's not what elders like to be. So if we can make city as a living environment for senior citizens and community as a family, I think we can go ahead with mapping of senior citizens and their welfare in urban areas. On that note, I'm going to stop. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Professor Tendulkar. I was very happy to hear your comments, and I think you have very aptly, properly, nicely described that it's a major social issue that that the world is dealing with at the international, national, or local level. It's a major social issue, and when I was thinking about this topic since morning, this was the strongest point that came to my mind, that there are very different social situations that exist for each and every individual. In this case, senior citizens. So having you on board in this discussion and your remarks, we welcome these and we value these. Thank you so much. And I'm sure the points that you made about how much of their engagement, the engagement of the senior citizens in the planning process and in the implementation of plans, how seriously are social dimensions being looked at. And one would also like to know how much are these urban planners or those who prepare master plans or smart city plans, how much is the engagement of a social scientist or a person having a background in sociology about the different provisions that are being made in the plan on access or housing and a whole lot of things that senior citizens require, how much of those things are being factored into in the plan preparation process. So very important points. Thank you very much. I'm sure Dr. Ajith Kaliyath would like to venture more, explore more about the things that you just mentioned as he's pursuing his work. I would now like to request the second discussant, Professor Rayan Woolrych, who is with the Urban Institute in UK, to share his impressions about the discussion that is going on, and in particular, if Dr. Ajith Kaliyath can benefit from the work that you have been engaged in over the years as to how other nations such as yours are dealing with this topic, what kind of things have been identified so that the quality of life or the life led by senior sections of the society are able to live or lead better? Over to you, Professor Woolrych.
Thank you, Dr. Rumi. Thank you, Dr. Ajith. Great presentation, and some really important findings on it. I have 3 pages of comments, but I will only select 2 or 3 major discussion points today, and maybe we can pick these up again. And Dr. Tendulkar nicely captured these, and it's extending on some of those things that I think. And by background, I'm an environmental gerontologist. It does draw upon a lot of the social gerontology that Dr. Anagha talks about, but it particularly looks at the relationship between older people and place, and thinking about place as being more than space. So, space being very abstract and out there. How do we turn a space into a meaningful place? So, the aspects of place identity, belonging and attachment. And I bring that together with urban studies and urban planning as well. But so really excellent presentation. Just coming back to your link in there, Dr. Rumi, is that we, in the UK, and if I had a big criticism about the World Health Organization age-friendly city agenda, nicely captured by you, Dr. Ajith, in the table, is that a lot of that work has been focused on the global north, more developed world and developed countries. And I think there is a danger, and I think there are some tools that you nicely highlighted around the place standard, around some of the frameworks and guidelines for the World Health Organization. But just to be careful about trying to use a one-size-fits-all approach to urban planning and approaches to age-friendly cities and communities. So one that doesn't try and transport or, in a transnational context, move from one area to another and assume that it will work. So I think there's a real danger. Certainly the work that we did more recently, which we worked in 3 case study cities in India. So we were in Hyderabad, we did some work in Kolkata, and we did some work in Delhi. And it immediately became apparent that experiences of aging differ across different urban, social, and cultural contexts. Obviously India a lot better than me, but that how this is very diverse. So experiences of aging are diverse. So I think there's a real danger in terms of moving models across national contexts and assuming that they will work. And we really need to understand the different cultural contexts. We need more case study research and experiential research into how older people experience place across different urban transformations. So you're right, in India, a lot of rapid urban transformation is happening. In the UK, we're still repopulating a lot of our urban areas. So Manchester, Glasgow, old industrial cities are, their populations have shrunk, and they're only just starting now to rebuild through urban regeneration and those schemes. So I think we need to understand how urban transformations across the world impact on older people in very different ways, but also to understand that cultural and social component, and to say that it's particularly dangerous I think, to move things across. It's very, and the reason I'm a bit uncomfortable with it, because it sort of brings back a lot of the sort of colonial geography ideas about what the developed world does is seen as something that we must do elsewhere. Actually, in the project that we're doing now in India, and we've learned as much from aging in Indian communities and translated that back to the UK in the ways in which civic and social participation happens in a lot of the low-income communities that we did some work in. So I think that's just one point. I think the second one fits into a point that Dr. Tendulkar was making, which was around not homogenizing the aging experience. So I think there's a tendency within aging research as well, so partly to blame for this and others, but we've tended to assume that older people experience aging in place in the same way, without really understanding that from the age of 60, life expectancy 80 and beyond, that there are various different cohorts of aging, experiences of aging in place within that group. So again, I think, and this is what we've tended to do a lot in the UK, is we've programmed services and supports for a certain type of older person, and it's excluded others from that process. So I think we need to understand the heterogeneity of the aging experience within urban areas in order to understand how we can best program services support, but also design our urban spaces as well. So I think a closer consideration of that. And I think you're right, Dr. Ajith, and that this is about people living in inclusive intergenerational communities as well. So I think a lot of the things we're saying is not just about, this is good for older people. I think there are communities that we all want to live in, aren't we? We all want opportunities for, lifelong learning. We all want to assume very meaningful roles throughout the aging process. And, we all want to have a sense of purpose and value in that as well. And, but also not to forget, I think in doing that, and there is an inclusive agenda, not to forget that there are certain older groups that are excluded and isolated from that process. So, in the UK, in our study, it was those with cognitive decline, those with mobility difficulties, those experiencing frailty were often the ones disconnected from communities and opportunities for digital inclusivity and connectivity and technology as well, which I know we could cover in greater detail today. But it's more to understand that heterogeneity of the aging experience, but also how that maps onto place. The other one is the other point I had here, which was more about place, and I think you touched on it, the inequities, the spatial inequalities in place. So our urban areas are not uniform in the sense that there are huge pockets, even in the UK, of deprivation, multiple disadvantage, and actually these communities often don't have the assets for healthy and active aging, so they're often deprived of those assets as well. So how can we best ensure that services and supports are delivered in a way that addresses some of that spatial inequality, but also provides the very basic services that, okay, we take for granted in the UK, but in our case study research in India was, access to clean water, basic housing and shelter, which again we took for granted very much in our UK research, but came out quite strongly in our, and they undermine the very basics of aging well. But also as we move up, it's about that sense of place belonging and identity and attachment to the places that we're in old age. And these will become more important because, as you said, cities are becoming more mobile. People are moving from rural to urban spaces. Familial supports we might not be able to rely on those in the same way. Technology might bridge that gap, but so older people aging in urban environments, how do we fill that gap in terms of our communities, our informal support networks within communities, and our services as well? So that's important. And I sense that there's a need to sort of resituate, and Dr. Rumi was talking about this, about the participation and engagement agenda, but to think of more of a rights to the city approach for older people, and how we can ideally conceptualize these rights, but how we can integrate them into planning and urban design as well. So I don't just mean the right to access urban spaces, so wider pavements, wider doorways, how do we get around our cities? Very important, those, but actually how do we ensure that people have a right in the making and the remaking of the city? It's a sense of citizenship and involvement in how cities are designed and shaped as well. So I think that's deeper than just can people get from A to B. I think it's more about having a stake in that. And what they've done particularly well in the UK and the developed world in this area is getting strong political buy-in and support for the age-friendly agenda. So what in the UK, there are many cities, for example, who have adopted charters for human rights for older people. It filters through into policy making and decision making. So one of the most successful examples is my home city of Manchester, which is often put up as a poster for the age-friendly city, but it has really strong infrastructure and political buy-in, but it also ensures that older people are involved in all policy making decisions. So what they don't have is necessarily a separate policy strand for aging. It cuts across transport, it should cut across housing, it should cut across outdoor spaces. So how do we ensure that we are having an interconnected cross-sectoral approach to that? So our transport talking to housing, our housing talking to outdoor places, is mobility and inclusivity part of that agenda. In the UK, there's still a lot of our decision making is still made in silos. So we have housing sat over here and transport sat over here. They're not particularly well connected or talking to each other. And that's the kind of, it's a cross-disciplinary, transdisciplinary stuff. You're right, Dr. Ajith, we need the sociologists talking with the architects, talking with the urban planners, talking with the geographers, the sociologists, you know, those in health and well-being. We need more transdisciplinary interventions to address this, because we're probably not going to we're not going to address these problems in individual disciplines. I think it's, you know, it's great to have so many different disciplines around the table as well today. But I've not shared a huge amount of findings from our research, and, you know, I'm willing to pick these up beyond the presentation, you know, and talk about some of the things that we found in the work that we did in India and as well. But that's what I want to talk about. And just to finish really on, I know you mentioned, Dr. Ajith, about independence in your presentation. And independence, or the notion of independence, is quite common in a lot of the aging literature in the UK and the policy decision making, and it's in the World Health Organization guide. The only problem I have with independence is that we don't live in independent lives, or, you know, that might not be our goal. I think we live very interdependent lives. So I think when we're talking about older people, you know, this isn't independence in terms of individuals doing, you know, what they do. It's older people connected to communities, places, people, social relations, you know. So we can't live independent lives. We actually depend on living in interdependent ways. So I think that's, you know, perhaps a more sort of reasonable concept to move forward with in terms of independence. I mean, but you know, that's just more of a conceptual thing I was wanting to bring in there. But great presentation. I've really enjoyed today, and thank you for inviting me. I mean, I think we should follow this up, and hopefully if we can look at some additional funding opportunities, and you know, we can bring some of this learning from the age-friendly city stuff into India and discuss how we can really develop these ideas. I think that'd be excellent. Sorry, I took more than my 7 or 8 minutes there, Dr. Rumi. I apologize.
No, it was wonderful to hear you, listen to your thoughts. I think your experience is rich, and your point about that there cannot be a single model for which can be applied, because the situations, as I said previously, are different. So it has to be a combination of approaches. I think you and Professor Tendulkar both have rightly pointed out the areas to which greater attention needs to be paid. Your experience of UK, and we look forward to learning more about the work that you are engaged in. We look forward to reading your work on, if it's published, about your visits to Hyderabad, Kolkata, and Delhi, about the study that you are currently engaged in, or it has been completed, and your other work. Certainly this work should be taken forward. Thank you very much. And your pointers to Dr. Ajith Kaliyath would be very useful in the work that he is engaged in. Once again, thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any, let me invite Dr. Ajith Kaliyath, before I open it up for discussion, if he would like to respond to the points raised by the discussants, if there is something that Dr. Kaliyath would like to say.
Thank you, Rumi, once again, and thank you, Ryan, as well as Dr. Anagha, for listening, reflecting, and sharing your and bringing your disciplinary thinking into this. Because I had a background in geography and then did urban planning, so the maximum that I could go is within these limitations. But obviously, knowing the society and its different challenges is a sociologist's area. But I'm not trying to say what you said was merely sociology, but you know, we need the theories, the discourses, the key ideas from these disciplines, like Ryan just mentioned. It's a problem which the society have to address. So we need to kind of integrate these different disciplinary understanding to address a problem which all of us are staring at, or our societies are going to soon confront. And so thank you for compelling me to go beyond, and rather nudging me to think that there are other areas which I need to kind of integrate and bring into my understanding. And I'll certainly do that. Very relevant, useful, very relevant inputs. The other bit is, but I'm quite pleased to see that all of us had, Rumi and both of you, Ryan and Dr. Tendulkar, all of us had we were agreeing to the issue that this is an issue of contemporary relevance and we can't shy away, we can't ignore, we can't think that this is someone else's problem. Many reasons. We are also going to be there. If there is enough life, we are also going to be aged someday. We will also reach. So we need to train ourselves. We need to be aware of the social realities around us at that time, and possibly we can also help and prepare the society to be much more kind. Which you said, Mumbai is not a kind city. We all think Mumbai is a kind and inclusive and humane city, but an insider's perspective is completely different. So it's helpful to know what more we need to do. And then, yes, one of the reason I mentioned, I tried to show those evidences which were not mine. The evidences from the US cities is to tell that only, and that this is very culturally rooted. And unless and until we have that very unique spatial patterns, we will not be able to do any justice to the need to address ageism or aging. So we need to generate such information, data. We need to integrate that into the planning process. We need to compel the planners and policymakers to think again beyond their disciplinary comforts. Geographers, engineers, architects becoming planners and policymakers, they think we have all the solutions. No. So we need to bring those. So both of you help in highlighting those issues. You also help in kind of pitching about the issues of inequity and or lack of equity cannot be left like that, because it's going to some way challenge all of our lives. So we need to address it in whatever possible. We need to attack the reasons behind it and work collectively to improve lives, to be able to live in a fairer society. Again, livability increases. We will all have greater belongingness to a society, community where we are not merely planning and working for elderly or aged, but intergenerational opportunities, intergenerational exchanges, more care, more affection, more support, more transaction can happen, and those are natural ways. So I think I realize a lot of aspects which were probably overlooked, or which were probably couldn't be brought into my discourse, but we can certainly enrich this. And I think all of us should collectively find a way to build on this, whether it leads us to a grant application, whether it leads us to writing something, whether it helps us to create new opportunities, write something for planners and policymakers. I think there is a value in bringing our heads together, and IMPRI has helped us to think collectively, and I think they will still be happy to kind of work together with all of us. And that's all my response. And if there are questions, happy to respond. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Kaliyath, for your responses. If there are any questions to the speaker from among the participants, we can take one or two questions. I can see a name, Mr. Nagarajan Krishna, who has posed 2-3 questions in the Q&A box. If he's present, would you like to pose your questions to the speaker?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
we can hear you. Yes. Mr. Nagarajan, would you like to?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Sir, generally, can you explain about the impacts of the declining joint family system. Besides, joint family system once safeguarded the elders, children, and youngers.
Okay.
Where we went wrong in the caring character.
Right.
Kindly give your comments, please.
Yes. Dr. Kaliyath, is the question clear to you?
Rumi, I can read it from here. I think he has put it in the
Box,
chat.
Q&A box. Yes.
What are the impacts of declining joint family system? Of course, that's a part of a societal transformation where people have to move from the security of the bigger families and go and look for their bread and butter, or improve upon the opportunities, seize upon the opportunities provided by distant places. So this has happened very well in Kerala. The joint family system doesn't exist. It's all nuclear family because people had to step out, find fortune elsewhere. And yes, certainly it has created challenges because children do not grow in the safety and security of a bigger family system where grandparents, aunts, uncles, and all of them are around them. So it has created challenges. It has resulted in difficulties in character formation, in their social relationships, in their kinships, in the way they see see and relate with other people in the society. But this is something which I don't think we are able to reverse, because this is part of a social transformation. More resources, more wealth, more materiality the society has acquired. So these things are consequent to that. Only thing we could do, which is what I try to bring that element, and I also listened to Dr. Tendulkar mentioning this. You create community structures. You do not have those structures which were earlier part of the joint family, but then you are able to plan, build community structures where there are enough number of people who are not just the parents, but other people, other trusted adults, other trusted senior people. So, they can all still collaborate. They can just engage. Similarly, if it's an intergenerational opportunity, children also will be able to benefit out of it. And there will be greater safety, security, and confidence for those who go out for their work during the daytime. So we have an opportunity to bring such things into a community structure, and thereby creating opportunities which probably one generation missed, but future generation might still be able to get. And it will also help in protecting the aged ones. It will also help them to socialize, to be engaged intellectually and emotionally. He also has a second question, which is probably related to, I think the caring character. So it's a related issue. When you are brought up, when you are part of a bigger society where you feel safe, your formative years are spent well with real good ideals and models around, it will help in character formation. We need to show the younger ones good models. And in fact, a couple of years back, I was part of a panel in Delhi, which was organized by the UN Global Compact Network and one of the NGOs in NCR, where Rumi would know, the Ford School of Management in Delhi. They were making a presentation which was quite surprising to me. The students from the Ford School organizes a day where the elder ones, probably the grandparents, not even their grandparents, are invited to the premises. They spend a day with these students. They get a good experience, and also the students get some different flavor of life and opportunities and how to tackle challenges of life from those people who are capable mentors. So there are new models institutions can create, societies can create, communities can create, which we are not able to provide in our homes and our own nuclear families now. So we all need to work to create such system. That would be my way of looking at it. And yes, the last point is sort of connected to this, what he has written. We have now nuclear families and we have separate families, but less mutual connectivity. So one value I will call for, and I keep doing this in every possible option, as a society which has advanced materially, which has got a lot of opportunities to, we are all technologically tech savvy, we have a lot of opportunity to know what is happening elsewhere in others' life, all curiosities which are driving us. There is trust deficit at every level, and unless and until as adults, as responsible citizens, as individuals, as parents, as children, as colleagues, we bring back trust into every place that we engage, whether it is an online conversation, whether it is in personal conversation, whether it is something behind us. If you don't bring back trust as a value, we will not be able to succeed in building these relationships. So building a community, building such opportunities will all depend upon how we keep ourselves, we maintain ourselves as trustworthy, and how much we invest in social trust. I'll stop here. Thank you, Rumi, for.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was very, very good to know your point of view on the points posed by the participant. I think we are a little behind time. I think it will be a good time to wind up things, to conclude. Dr. Tendulkar, Professor Tendulkar, would you have to like to say something before we wind up?
Thank you for that opportunity. Just a quick thought. I
Yes.
want even Mr. Nagarajan to, listen to me carefully. There's nothing that has gone wrong with our care model. What we got to keep in mind, we are not particularly unethical or anything towards, it's a society that is changing at a pace at which we did not anticipate it would change. So all of us, including the institution of family and the values, are in transit. The transition is something that we will have to digest and take it gracefully. So let's not get very negative about it. See, what has happened is in rural pockets, you will find urban small little pockets. And in urban areas, you will also find small little rural pockets. So this intermingling of rural, urban, intermingling of carer and caregiver and care recipient is something that Indian society will have to soon digest. So senior citizens didn't sit back and say we are waiting to receive care. They will also have to say that we are participants in this and we are going to be stakeholders in this. Similarly, the young generation will also have to ensure that they are listened to. The senior citizens are listened to. Their demands, whatever. In Mumbai, I see a lot of development, metro and bridges. Nobody is asking how are senior citizens going to access it. I mean, they just say there are elevators there without realizing that not very many people can use elevators. They are scared to go to the mall because there are these moving elevators everywhere. So let's get this clear that listen to the soil, and there's nothing wrong with the care model, but we got to keep pace when we plan things out with the changing norms and values in society. That's all. Thank you. That's all that I had to say.
Thanks a lot, Professor Tendulkar. Wonderful to know your idea. I'm happy that you were able to take out time to participate in this discussion. Very grateful to you on behalf of IMPRI, and it's also a good opportunity to know you.
Thank you, sir. It was equally rewarding for me to be part of it. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, all of us should remain in touch to work on topics of mutual interest. When nations, countries, when I participate in BRICS forums and other places, when nations are identifying areas of mutual concern and interest, we in India should also do it.
Absolutely, absolutely, totally agree.
So,
thanks a lot.
Thank you. Now, I have just one point to make before we conclude this discussion, before I hand over this platform to Dr. Arjun Kumar. I see and I pick up from the words of Professor Tendulkar and Professor Woolrych about the different situations, social scenarios that exist in our country, particularly in India. If I just mentioned three such cases, one is a case where a family is living, that is to say, parents are living with the children, and they are being taken care of in a very proper manner. I think this must have to do a lot with the cultural values or social values or values given to the children by the parents themselves. So no issues there. The parents are being looked after very well. And we all know there are such examples from families across India. The second situation is when parents are living with children, but children, unfortunately, for one reason or the other, do not have sufficient time to care for their parents. The mother or the father of the child would be interested in accessing or availing a certain facility, like taking out some money from the bank, but the child or their children do not have time to give to their parents, and the parents are in a helpless situation in such cases. And there can be a series of such problems, that whether it's related to accessing healthcare or going to a certain place, and the children do not have time to give to their parents. So that's the second situation. The third situation is when if either a person or senior citizen is not married or is living in at a different place where the children are not there. So there, a different approach is required. The situation is different. Now the challenge for planners, policymakers, implementing agencies is to understand how or what is the way to empower those who are in genuine need of help. Can there be a way of generating greater awareness among these sections of the society as to what are the opportunities that are available to them, what they need to do in a certain situation if they are facing difficulty? I understand that's the biggest challenge, because I've been reading about that's what we have been doing throughout our lives, reading about plan making, master plans, and other plans and development schemes and projects. But whether these are being the community for whom such documents are being prepared, are they benefiting from such decisions that are being made, is something that there's a lot of work that is needed to be done. It's a gray area, I would say. I think people like us, like-minded people, should get together and document. What we can do, being in academic institutions, we can document the work. We can write scholarly articles which the policymakers or planners might look at. So with these concluding remarks, I would once again thank the discussants, Professor Tendulkar, Professor Woolrych, and the main speaker for today, Dr. Ajith Kaliyath. Wonderful presentation. Lot of scope for taking it ahead, lot of scope for improvement, bringing in rich experiences, case studies, the work that KILA is doing at the local level, and ultimately, how can communities for whom this entire work is being done can benefit. So with these concluding thoughts, I would like to hand it over to the main organizer of today's event, Dr. Arjun Kumar. Once again, thanks.
Thank you. And to formally give the vote of thanks, I invite Simi to do the same. Over to you.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible. There is a little bit of internet glitch from my end. So thank you so much, for this wonderful discussion that has just taken place on the occasion of International Day of Older Persons. On behalf of the IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies, I extend my heartiest gratitude to our speaker, Dr. Ajith Kaliyath, for talking about and for addressing equity through planning and placemaking age-friendly communities. That was very insightful, and certainly it opens up great space for working together, and we'll be definitely very happy to take it forward under your guidance, sir, and under the guidance of all our panelists. I also thank our discussants, Dr. Anagha Tendulkar, Professor Ryan Woolrych, and also our advisor, our mentor, the chair of the program, Dr. Rumi Aijaz. Thank you so much for sharing your views, and it really opens up a lot of space to work together, as I mentioned. So thank you so much to everybody who attended the program here on Zoom and also on Facebook Live, and who will be watching us later on YouTube and listening to our podcasts. Thank you so much, and I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.